Well, good morning, everyone. Here we are once again. It's Friday morning, January the 24th, and it's time again for the morning after. And so we're going to spend some time on a few subjects this morning, and a lot calmer, a lot more relaxed, because it is Friday, and we're getting ready for the weekend. I'm sure everybody is, but listen, before I get started this morning, I wanted to make mention of somebody who is joining our team here. And they are, or this person is, our new community events reporter. And I want you to join me in welcoming Fran Gouvier. That's her name, Fran Gouvier. And she is going to be our community events reporter for Peachland Radio and our new digital newspaper, which you are reading now and listening to, Peachland Radio Waves. And she'll be starting today, actually, and her voice column, as we say, in the digital world, is appearing in today's newspaper. And she'll be here every day reporting on the events of Peachland and West Kelowna. So if you have any events you'd like her to promote, you can email her. She'll give you her email address. It's listed in the newspaper as well, at fran.gouvier, G-O-V-I-E-R, at outlook.com. But listen to her first broadcast today, and a little information about her, a little profile about her, and then you can have the link in there so you can tune in today for her debut broadcast of the upcoming events for West Kelowna. So that's our commitment as a radio station and as a digital newspaper, to be in sync with what's happening in both communities. Because those of you that are not familiar with where Peachland is located, we're on the beautiful shores of Lake Okanagan, and West Kelowna is just up the road in between Peachland and Kelowna. And it's got its own vital, vibrant community, West Kelowna. And so there's a lot happening, and very much, and certainly people are constantly dropping into Peachland and enjoying the, one of their favorite spots is of course, Bliss Coffee Shop, coffee, I don't want to say coffee shop. They have baked goods and other things there. A wonderful little spot. And a lot of people from West Kelowna just head down for the afternoon and have a bite and a coffee, sit on the deck, and take a walk around our beautiful lake. So welcome, Fran Gouvier, to the team. All right, on to the items that we're tracking this morning, and certainly, I think we're going to leave alone our little friend Justin Bieber for today, Canada's representative to celebrity juicy dirt. Americans are genuinely addicted to celebrities. I know they are, and Canadians not so much, but we do enjoy watching people fall from grace for some unknown reason. Maybe the national psyche in Canada is insecurity. I don't know, but we'll leave Justin Bieber alone and leave him hopefully to the hands of his mother, who can head over to Miami and give him some tough love. He's only 19. Of a more serious note, this morning it has been discovered that the seniors residence, Les Halles Vertes seniors residence, had fire code violations flagged in 2011. This is a terrible, terrible tragedy. Those of you that have elderly parents who are in those environments, and my mother is in her mid-90s, but she's in good care, I think, at the Edmonton General Continuing Care Center. But there's a lot of private seniors residents that are being affected by not following certain restrictions and violating codes. At any rate, this residence that burned down early Thursday morning, which killed at least 5 people with 30 others accounted for, was found to be in violation of certain fire code regulations during a 2011 inspection. Although the residents subsequently corrected the problems, the local fire department found that some hallways of the residence were missing the required wall signs showing evacuation routes in the event of an emergency. What's more, evacuation routes were missing in a central binder that is supposed to contain the residence's emergency plans near the main entrance. Shortly after the inspection, the fire department took the additional step of training staff on how to evacuate the building. There were probably some things that had to be corrected everywhere. That's according to the Director of Human Resources for the agency. The fire department noted that there was a lot of training and practice that was done with excellent cooperation from the residents. However, and then on June the 25th, the health agency, in 2011, the health agency issued a certificate of conformity to the 3-story residence. A fire drill was also carried out last spring. The agency refused to provide media with a copy of the inspection report, but Dumont read aloud to a reporter from some of the notes. All operators of private retirement homes in Quebec must maintain detailed fire safety plans according to provincial law. The residence was equipped with some sprinklers, but not throughout the property. A total of 52 people lived in the mostly wooden structure that was built in 1997. So it's a reputation that appears to have had a good reputation, according to some of the local people. They had a pharmacy operating out of there and a clinic, etc. But the residence was due for a visit later this year by some individuals who were going to evaluate private nursing homes in general. The provincial law on private retirement homes leaves it up to each municipality to decide on a schedule of fire code inspections. And the residence was due to have its certification reevaluated by the health agency this summer. On the website, the operators of the home noted that it won 2 Golden Roses in 2004 and 2006 for the quality of the residence and the care offered. It also received a certificate from the regroupment organization saying that it's meeting the highest quality norms. I think the message here is, don't believe the PR, don't believe the website or the press, the marketing that goes into a lot of these private homes. Really, it's very important to do a lot of research. Do your due diligence before you move your loved ones into any facility. I certainly did that with my mother in Edmonton, and it does pay off. You do a lot of research. Talk to the right people. Don't just trust what you read on a website or in a brochure. Okay, let's move on to another item here yesterday. This comes closer to home. A Kelowna woman was charged in the U.S. for alleged death threats. This came over the wire yesterday. A Kelowna reporter has been charged with felony harassment in Washington state for allegedly threatening to kill her hockey player boyfriend. Washington state officials announced Thursday 25-year-old Tisha McClellan, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, Tisha McLaughlin, that perhaps should read, Tisha McLaughlin is charged with 1 count of felony harassment with domestic violence with a bail set at $50,000. She was arrested by Kennewick, Washington police Saturday after allegedly making threats over the phone and sending harassing text messages to her former boyfriend, 19-year-old Jackson Playfair. Now, according to an affidavit from a deputy prosecuting attorney, McLaughlin and Playfair were in a heated argument over the phone January the 17th after he told her he had cheated on her with another girl while he was in Spokane. Well, that's when McLaughlin, who has worked as a reporter for TV, newspapers, and online news agency Castanet in Kelowna, allegedly began to threaten him, telling him he would be dead by the end of the night. According to the affidavit, McLaughlin said she would travel from Kelowna to Washington to see him, allegedly telling him when she did, it would be the last game of hockey he plays. Playfair begged with her not to come to the U.S., but the next morning he received texts from her that she was in the Tri-Cities area, and that's when he became seriously worried for his safety and contacted police. Officers located and spoke with the woman that day. She denied threatening to kill Playfair, but did not arrest her. She agreed to leave Playfair alone and head back home. However, unfortunately, over the next several hours, she just bombarded the young man with a massive amount of text messages trying to get him to meet her. This is from one of the local police spokespersons, Mike Blackman, who reported on this. Now, Playfair again contacted police, who then took McLaughlin into custody at the Kennewick Hotel she was staying at on January the 18th. Now, he and his team, the Tri-City Americans, aren't commenting on the alleged threats. Playfair said he had been in a relationship with McLaughlin since July, but it had been rocky at times, according to the police report. The left-winger, Playfair, is the son of Phoenix Coyotes associate coach Jim Playfair. We all remember him from his playing days. Now, Trevor Rockcliffe, who runs the Okanagan news agency Castanet, said the Sun-Times sports reporter had worked as a freelancer for the website until January the 12th. McLaughlin will answer charges in a Kennewick courtroom Friday at 1 p.m., and her bail has been set at $50,000. That's quite a high bail. Justin Bieber only got his bail set at $2,500. Well, I guess they took this very seriously. When you threaten somebody's, life, and she could have been in an emotional rage, which is, you hear about this sort of thing and comes as a shock to you, and who knows what her mental condition might have been. But at any rate, when you make a statement like it's going to be the last game of hockey you play, that can either be determined, she's going to go over there with a gun, or she's going to go with a baseball bat, break both his legs, and then that would be the last hockey game he plays. Anyways, that's a little close to home. That's right here in just close to home in Kelowna. Okay, what else have we got? Well, the Premier of the province of BC. Interesting. She sends an invitation only to the ethnic media for a press conference. It's called a press conference about the Lunar New Year, which of course is the Chinese New Year, choosing only to invite ethnic media in Vancouver. Ethnic meaning Chinese. I don't know why that word is so offensive to people. To say if it's a Chinese New Year and you have a press conference and you're inviting only ethnic media, that means you are inviting only Chinese media because it's the Chinese New Year. I don't know. Anyways, before the provincial election, the Liberal Party was criticized for using government funds to attract diverse votes. And 2 weeks ago, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Mr. Harper, used a similar strategy, only meeting with Vancouver's ethnic community. That could mean a whole variety of ethnic, people, not just Asian population. All right, Bill Chu, I think that is a Chinese Asian. That is an Asian name. Bill Chu, chair of the Canadians for Reconciliation Society. I have no idea exactly what that is. At any rate, he said that this separation of messages is reminiscent of historic inequalities. In the old days, they treated each particular ethnic community as if they were somewhat of second-class citizens. So they would selectively tailor the messages to each community, he said. So we are talking about remnants from the past, as this is something we should try to get rid of. Chu said the strategy is not ideal for an inclusive Canadian society today. There shouldn't be a divisive way of somehow saying the Chinese would get one message, the Indo-Canadians would get another message, and then other Canadians would get another message. So that's not conducive to country building, he said. Adding, because in a democracy, what I hear should be exactly what you hear. Despite the selective invite, all media outlets attended the conference. The Premier's office said it will continue to hold events with specific invitation lists. In other words, neither political party in office at the present time really cares about bringing the communities together. I doubt seriously whether Stephen Harper has any interest, zero, in bringing the people of this country together. As a matter of fact, you use a divide and conquer mentality when you're in power. And certainly Stephen Harper, and we'll talk a little bit more about our friend Stevie I know we can't leave him alone for any of these broadcasts, but I tell you, there's just too much happening. So at any rate, that's another reminder that we are not interested in assimilation, and that's what's wrong. You've got pockets of people that are used to a particular custom and lifestyle staying off onto their own, doing their own thing, and then Canadians struggling to sort of, it's like, would the real Canadian please stand up? We do have an identity crisis in this country. We don't have it in pockets. I wouldn't say in this country. We have it in some of the major cities, Vancouver, Montreal, as an example. And so I don't think that when you look at other parts of Canada, smaller town Canada, that's not an issue. Because a Canadian is a Canadian, and then generally they have generations that have lived on farms or own that have been in the community. They're used to who they are. They know their neighbors. I met a fellow yesterday just walking, when I was walking my dog on the lake. Met a gentleman who had owned a farm near Edmonton, a 300-acre potato farm. We reminisced about the early days. My dad used to go out into the country to pick up eggs from chickens to take back to my granddad's produce company. And we just reminisced about Edmonton and the old days and talking about farming communities and all of that. It was a very wonderful neighborly chat. I'd never met the man before, but we had a lot of history to talk about. That's the kind of thing that we all need. As we get older even, we need it more to connect with our roots. And I felt very good about that. I never felt that way in Vancouver. Vancouver, the prairie provinces were always put down. Everybody felt, oh, we feel so sorry for you who live in Vancouver. We feel so sorry for you that you were from Saskatchewan or you're from Edmonton or Saskatoon. How could you live there? Winnipeg, oh, it's so cold. It's always about the weather. It's about the fact that they sort of view the prairies as Hicksville. And that's that arrogant, narcissistic attitude that prevails in Vancouver, and certainly it prevails to the detriment of any opportunity to provide any sort of sense of community in Vancouver. It's very, very tough, and you've got pockets of ethnic communities that are keeping now to themselves. And certainly if you're a new arrival, you're an immigrant from another country, particularly from Asia, you'll want to hang out, obviously, and move into neighborhoods where there are other Asians so that you can talk the language and you can communicate and there's familiarity. But if there's no desire to learn the language or the customs or the culture or whatever it might be to be a Canadian, I don't know. I mean, we all struggle with that. What does it really mean to be a Canadian? We have hockey and a beaver. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So that's the challenge that we're faced in Canada today, and certainly in pockets of Canada, particularly the big cities. It's not an issue in small town Canada. It just isn't. And so one of the things I love about Peachland is this is a small town Canada, but an intelligent small town Canada, an intelligent number of individuals who are very obviously they're concerned about what happens in the rest of the world, but also there's a very strong community feeling here, and we're working for the good of the community. So I love it here. So what can I say? I'm a huge fan. At any rate, that's the situation with the Liberals and the the local government, provincial government. And, oh God, we're going to leave this guy alone, or should we just talk about our Mrs. Ford's little boy, Robbie? Oh, he got stuck in an elevator. It wasn't because of his weight, by the way, that they couldn't get the doors open, that he was so huge, but the elevator did get stuck. But it begs the question, maybe there was a weight limit in this freight elevator. He's close to 300 pounds. So they didn't say that the elevator got stuck because there was a sign outside the elevator door that said maximum pounds allowed in here is 285. I don't know. Anyways, you got to wonder why after everything that's going on, why the Economic Club of Canada would even want to continue to invite him to speak. At any rate, he was invited to speak. The event was set to run from noon to 1:30, but the mayor only made it to the podium shortly after 1:15. So this was kind of like a re-election pitch to some of the city's movers and shakers. It was kind of almost derailed Thursday when he almost missed the event. But he gets up to the podium and he says, "I want to thank the Economic Club of Canada for hosting today's event and getting me stuck in the elevator for 45 minutes. Ha, ha, ha." He told the roughly crowd there was 180 business people that paid $85 a shot, $985 a table. They were sold out. This was after they had seen this drunken stupor swearing in Jamaican verbiage, whatever he said. Anyways, they listened to him. He went on to tout his physical record, highlighted what he considers key issues in the fall's municipal election, including transit and infrastructure. Like nothing's gone wrong. Like everything's just normal. Everything's fine. And the president, the CEO of the Economic Club of Canada, said she was trapped in the same hotel elevator with the mayor. But here's the interesting thing. Here's what she said. Her name is Rhiannon Trail. She said to the group, which included members of the mayor's staff as well as the hotel employees that got stuck in this freight elevator. They apparently went into this freight elevator to avoid all the traffic in the lobby, okay, where dozens of reporters were waiting for Ford's arrival, which they always do. I mean, this is they're addicted to anything that this guy does now. It makes for great press. It makes for great ratings on TV, whatever. I mean, this guy, that's what he's doing. He's just helping all the ratings. But she denied it. She denied that it was an attempt to avoid the media. And she said that Ford was so calm and gracious during the ordeal, I should say. Ford was so calm and gracious during the ordeal. She said, noting that they discussed his speech and his campaign for re-election. Oh, how nice. I wonder what his wife would say if she, look at the turmoil she's been through with this guy. And yet this gal goes in the elevator and says he was so calm and gracious. What's her definition of calm and gracious? Who is she? Anyways, there was no cell phone service in the elevator, but the group was able to call for help, thank God, using the built-in emergency system. Unfortunately, we were stuck in between floors, and they couldn't get us out for a while. Why? Because they did not have a winch to get him up through the doors. I mean, how could you get him out of that elevator? Anyways, I'm being facetious. Anyways, despite their best efforts, the group wasn't able to alert the event organizers of the reason for the delay. Now, the hotel refused comment on the incident. This is going to be great for Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel, all the late night hosts. We need, other than Rick Mercer, we need something like that up here in Canada. We really do. I mean, this is my contribution to the Daily Show. I'm going to do the Jon Stewart Daily Show. This is the Alan Hollander Canadian version of the Daily Show, because you got to laugh about this stuff, folks, because you can't take it seriously. You can't make up this stuff. This is, maybe we need this in Canada because, we're just burned out by all the other crap and the lies and the deceit of everybody's. Anyways, the hotel refused to comment. Several members of the business crowd left before Ford's arrival. However, with one saying he had too much work to do and couldn't wait any longer. Well, here's Tony Chow said he was a little bit disappointed by the lag. He's a little bit disappointed by having to wait an hour and a half. That's so Canadian. We're so patient. We just sit and wait. We're a little disappointed. But and the question is, why the hell he would be there in the first place? Why would you spend that kind of money to sit in front of Rob Ford? What are you expecting? Now, here's an interesting comment. Some of those who caught the mayor's talk said they were impressed by his resilience. Oh my God, what have we come to in this country where we are impressed by this buffoon's resilience? His resilience. I mean, give me a break. What is going on in Toronto? I would like to talk to somebody from Toronto and find out on the street what people are thinking. Not his supporters, but people in general who are not voting at all. Let's say just normal, average, everyday citizens. So he says, I commend him for being able to address an audience after being stuck in an elevator for 45 minutes, said Jim Regan. I'd like to find out who Jim Regan is. Is his company a financial supporter of Rob Ford? Might very well be. Reagan said he signed up for the event to show support for Ford and refused to discuss the mayor's latest controversy. In other words, like the Jack Nicholson said, the truth, you can't handle the truth, Mr. Reagan. So you don't want to know the truth, even though the YouTube video that showed him in a rambling, profane rant in a Jamaican accent, no, that might be the truth. But you can't handle the truth, Jim Reagan, can you? Okay, so Ford, who had vowed last year that he had given up alcohol, has admitted he was drinking and called Monday's videotaping incident at a restaurant called the Stay Queen a minor setback. The clip posted anonymously on Tuesday shows an incoherent Ford using Jamaican swear words, other profanities, at one point aiming his curses at Toronto's police chief. Well, we know all that. It's all on the video. Okay, interesting that the Economic Club of Canada would do this. But hey, nothing surprises me anymore. Toronto, this is even more fascinating. I got to check hang on here while we check the time allotments. We are getting close to the 30-minute. Okay, this is a 30-minute broadcast, so in order to fit it in, we have to jump along here. Just real quickly, I wanted to tell you about a report that came out about all the errors in, he's been boasting about his budget, etc. Then an editorial came out as to whether or not he's done what he said he's done. Ford devoted part of his speech at the Economic Development Council to lambasting city councilors, and he also vowed to present a series of motions to city council next week before the final budget, etc., etc. But in fact, Torontonians pay more in taxes and user fees than before Ford came to office. City expenses are higher than ever, despite Ford's election promise to lower them by more than $1 billion, and the average household is on the hook for a total of $1,200 to fund Ford's ill-conceived Scarborough subway extension. Ironically, a better transit option was available in the city free of charge. And so in a sign that Toronto's mayoralty race is well and truly underway, at the same time, Ford was addressing the Economic Club of Canada. Rival candidate David Suknaki was outlining his economic agenda at a different business gathering. In his talk, he pledged to cancel Ford's costly Scarborough subway expansion, lower commercial taxes, and encourage business development. Although obviously an underdog, Suknaki has at least one big advantage. He isn't burdened, shall we say, by the incumbents' sorry records. Ford's mantra in his campaign is promises made, promises kept, but that's just not true. Besides his nose stretcher on lowering city spending, Ford's fractured promises include his hopelessly unrealistic pledge to cut the size of city council, eliminate the land transfer tax, trim spending without cutting any services, and privatize trash collection, a job only half completing. Returning to the question that I raised at the beginning of whether Toronto is better off, if a part-time leader with substance abuse issues who would rather coach high school football than do his job is superior to someone dedicated to being a full-time mayor with a firm grasp of the issues, then Toronto is indeed better off under Ford. If not, voters should look beyond their current mayor to a brighter future. Let's see if they will. Enough of Toronto, and I'm actually following the Leafs now, more so than I am what the city's doing. And finally, we're on to a little bit of Harperism. I'm just checking my time here. I got about a couple of minutes, and I only want to say this, that this is a quote from Eve Engler. This is in May 2010. Very revealing. Rather than Jewish votes, Harper's Israel no matter what policy has more to do with mobilizing his right-wing evangelical base on an issue, unlike abortion, that has limited electoral downside. Zionism is particularly strong among evangelicals who believe Jews need to return to the Middle East to hasten the second coming of Jesus and the apocalypse. I said this to my wife when I first saw this conceived photo op, Stevie's magical mystery tour to the Middle East, to Israel, all well-timed, but deeper than that is exactly what this fellow has said. That's, I think, the scary part, is that in that one quote alone, he's an unabashed evangelical Christian. We know that about Stephen Harper. So he's got an agenda, and that's different from any other prime minister we've had in this country. Lester B. Pearson, who's a wonderful statesman, had no religious agenda. John Diefenbaker had no religious agenda. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, yes, you can say he was a bit off-center and a little left and always in turmoil, but he had no political agenda. No religious agenda. And so I really think that we're entering some dangerous ground here with a man who is leading us literally into this supposedly, minefield of a confusion between religious extremism and our little country of Canada. It's beyond me. So I'm just going to read this quote again, and then I'm going to leave it alone. So rather than this is a quote from Eve Engler in May 2010. So that's 4 years ago, okay? Rather than Jewish votes, and it's all come to manifest now with this trip. Who knew that 4 years ago that this would happen? Anyways, rather than Jewish votes, Harper's Israel no matter what policy has more to do with mobilizing his right-wing evangelical base on an issue that has limited electoral downside. Zionism is particularly strong among evangelicals who believe Jews need to return to the Middle East to hasten the second coming of Jesus and the apocalypse. Well, I can tell you that Zionism is founded on the principle that all Jews must return to the homeland. It's sort of been part of a mantra. At any rate, that's our news for today. That's the news behind the headlines. We're getting close to wrap up. Stay tuned for the rest of the story with Paul Harvey. Just click on the click on the link below, and you can listen. Bye for now. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend.